I've lived through an age of excess, of total disregard for our earthly home. An era of internal combustion engines gulping down fossil fuels and polluting the atmosphere. Of huge coal-fired power stations, among the biggest polluters. A time of chopping and burning down rainforests and contaminating our wetlands and overfished oceans with plastic and raw sewage. It's a global crisis, and we may have passed the tipping point. So we've come to a continent which is a barometer of man's impact on the environment, a kind of early warning system. Welcome to Antarctica.
Drilling deep into Antarctica's ice since the 1990s, researchers discovered an archive of Earth's climate history. Bubbles of ancient air that revealed how the burning of oil, coal and gas had changed our atmosphere substantially.
If you want to know what to do in the future, you have to study the past, because you need to know how it was when we weren't here on Earth. That's very important. It's kind of starting point.
Traveling to Antarctica with us, a group of young South Africans with innovative ideas to save our planet.
All right, so it is super hot in Cape Town, but in about 6 hours' time we land in Antarctica.
Team leader, the intrepid explorer, 𝗶𝗵𝗶𝘀.
This is really where our journey starts. A 6-hour flight from Cape Town to Novo ice airstrip in an Aleutian 90 jet. There's a temperature change of 30 to 40 degrees, so we've had to get kitted out for the coldest, windiest continent on Earth.
Landing on a 3-kilometer ice runway needs special braking skills and huge reverse thrust from the engines.
It's quite surreal. It's such a pristine landscape, you know. Just the vastness of it is crazy. Like when I stepped out of the plane, it was just, you know, I was flooded with a whole bunch of emotions and I didn't know what to think.
If I look overwhelmed, it's because I am. It's just kilometer after kilometer of ice and snow. I mean, it covers, what, 98% of the continent with an average thickness of 2 kilometers.
But for the next week, we see evidence of what has alarmed scientists globally. Ice receding, water levels rising, the living embodiment of a warming planet.
Day one in Antarctica!
𝗏𝗏𝗡 in Antarctica selects students from across South Africa to travel here with specialist educators, explore the science and return with the input to communities they want to serve.
𝗶𝗏𝗡, this isn't a holiday for them. You want them to take something back to South Africa.
Derek, it's for me the greatest principle that people could live by. If you've been gifted something, give back. We're not even asking them to change the world. We're saying go back to 𝗀𝗁𝗃 or to Pretoria. Change that place.
Change their corner of the world.
Simple concept.
This is the only continent where people haven't permanently lived. At the Novo runway in East Antarctica, at the end of February, the base is packed up, evacuated, and the last flight leaves for the long, dark winter months.
But what I love about this is how the sky and the landscape just blend together.
15 kilometers from the runway, the Oasis guest house emerges from the vista of ice, our base camp. Our rustic home for the week. And here, expert environmental educator 𝗃𝗏𝗃 Davids facilitates the experiments and research.
So our students get to touch, feel, experience, smell, and those are all things that go and sit inside of the body.
Okay.
My job as the educator here is to get them to reflect on that experience so that it becomes knowledge and learning, and that is the lesson that they take home.
Rian is renowned for his first-of-a-kind adventures. 𝗲𝗏 in Antarctica is no exception.
What is the outcome that you hope for?
I'm hoping 10, 15 years' time in a boardroom, one of these students are going to be making big decisions. I probably am dreaming a little bit too ambitiously, but I'm hoping that's going to be the change, that next big thing in the environment.
I want to change the social lifestyle that I live in.
Science whiz 𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗍𝗃, alarmed by continuous outbreaks of shack fires, at age 13 developed a fire-retardant paint.
How's this experience going to change what you do?
It's a total contrast because I work with fires and here I am on ice. So it's like what happens in Cape Town in the fires contribute to the melting of this ice here in Antarctica. So I get a different view of how important my project is.
Wildfires around the world emitted well over 1 billion tons of carbon into the atmosphere in 2021. Now, engineer Alarmingly is scaling up weather stations from the coast to the heart of the continent to collect data that can feed into global climate models.
Scientists, they are trying to understand what's going on here. So we have to monitor the wind, temperatures. We have to try to do that in several different places.
But that's vital research.
All these data are repatriated in the station, sent by satellite and available for the whole international scientific community. Because this is also something in Antarctica which is important. It's the fact that we share the result, we share information.
Amateur inventor 𝗃𝗀 devised this miniature weather station that can measure soil and atmospheric conditions. His vision is for engineering to save the environment.
I believe 110% that robots can help us clean up the environment. Here in Antarctica specifically, you can't send out humans to the middle of nowhere to go take sensor readings, to clean up, or even to overwinter, because in Antarctica overwintering is 7 months in the dark.
By now a veteran ocean activist, 𝗀𝗏𝗃𝗏 started her own NPO to reduce ocean pollution at the age of 12.
I think that the biggest weapon that we can use and tool is education, because if you educate the youth and the future generations, we are the people who are going to make the changes in the world.
Driving through the white desert is tricky. Antarctica is losing ice at an average rate of 150 billion tons a year, contributing to cracks and unseen crevasses, lethal traps. As the ice cap recedes, the remnants of human activity are revealed.
What I find quite interesting is that a lot of these things are really old, so it's been under the ice. And with ice melting, it suddenly exposes it. So we're finding really old things as well.
For marine scientist 𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗏, the value of this continent lies in what it can teach us about sustainability.
So it's the driest continent in the world. So if you want water, you've got to melt ice. You know, energy needs to be generated. So nothing is easy, and I think it's suddenly you realize what sustainability is about, because there's no conveniency factor here.
Excuse me for taking you into the toilet of our rather modest cabin. Sorry, Kai. But it is of unexpected relevance, because every visitor to Antarctica as a scientist, student or journalist is not allowed to leave anything behind, and that includes human waste. So every time you flush, it is automatically bagged for the return journey.
On every walk, every hike, conditions are harder because it's warmer and wetter than it should be. Kai Broom is from KwaZulu-Natal.
You can see the effects of climate change already because of all the, the snow has been melting. All these experiences kind of make one appreciate this place, and then so therefore appreciate the bigger picture of what we're doing as humans to this earth.
𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗏 says not many people in her Gauteng community think about the environment. She wants to motivate them about the urgency.
When we went to the tunnels, we actually fell into the ice. So seeing it has inspired me and encouraged me that I need to take action.
Right now, sea levels are rising about 3 millimeters a year. By 2100, that's expected to triple.
If all this ice melted into the ocean, average sea levels around the entire world would rise something like 58 meters, which is just too devastating to even contemplate.
In the summer months, 𝗍𝗵𝗶 monitors how changing weather patterns transform the landscape.
It's the research that is being done in the Antarctic which is going to help us understand how the sea level is rising and will rise in the future because of melting ice, and the consequences of our business as usual model, which means that climate will continue to rise despite all the best intentions. But you see that in fact the political establishment is insensible to the issues which are being raised, and that we are all going to have to deal with the consequences.
20 years ago, Elaine created the Polar Foundation to connect science with society, urging people to embrace change.
Because the planet doesn't care about us, but we should care about us. And changing, it's interesting because it will create a new dynamic. And I want, with the foundation, be part of the one who are just trying to do their little stuff to try to convince the young generation to change.
There's a stark contrast between the relatively pristine Antarctic and conditions back home, where pollution rules on land, in the sea, and in the air. So, who's going to clean it up? I think you know the answer is you and me.